Asia Pacific finance could reach 4.8 trillion US dollars by 2035, but bank heavy funding risks are constraining the region's next growth cycle. To put this in perspective, we are joined by Stuart Johnston of Deloitte. Stuart, welcome to the discussion. Now, what is stopping Asia's banks from capturing this growth?
So, Simon, the opportunity ahead of us for our banks, for our wealth management, even for our insurance institutions is significant over the next decade. The challenge we need to meet is that today, structurally, whilst we have a very integrated region when it comes to trade, we're very adept at driving economic growth through trade across the region. We don't quite have the same match fitness, if you like, when it comes to our financial services. Now, one of the key drivers of that is that we do have a large proportion of our lending orientated towards balance sheet lending. And so we're going to have to need to see a rebalancing of that. Over the last decade and previous to that, we've really driven our economic growth through a manufacturing base. That's aligned well to the balance sheet lending that we have. But over the next decade, we're going to require very different investment vehicles to complement that balance sheet lending. And so we're going to need to see a rebalancing across the region of the investment vehicles that our businesses have access to.
Very interesting, Stuart. Thank you. Now, is Asia too reliant on bank lending to fund its next growth cycle?
The real question is actually about what are the vehicles that are going to be required over the next decade? Now, this is primarily driven by the fact that our innovation, our growth will come from a more diversified set of businesses over that period. Asia has a huge amount of capital, and that capital is going to continue to grow, particularly as we see the middle class continue to rise. And so the question is going to be one of how do we diversify those vehicles? How do we reduce the reliance that we have today on international markets? And really, how do we leverage the capital that we have available to make the investment in the trillions of dollars of investment that are going to be required to drive our incredible economic growth that we will witness in this region over the next decade?
I do need to ask, why isn't more of Asia's savings reaching businesses and investments that need it?
Simon, the real question is about the vehicles that are available. So bank lending and balance sheet lending has its place, but it looks for certain types of investments. It looks for certain types of businesses in which to place that capital. And so it's about the availability of different vehicles within Asia. Today, our businesses have the opportunity to access that capital, but from international markets. Asia today is a net exporter of savings, but we don't see the same capital flow back in necessarily into this region. So this is about Asia creating a greater number of those investment vehicles, a more diversified set of vehicles, and moving away from the dominance that we see today in balance sheet lending.
Thank you, Stuart. Now, what needs to change for Asia to build deeper, more efficient capital markets?
Yes, Simon, and our report really explores this in depth, but it's going to take a team effort. We're going to need to see both at a policy level and a regulatory level the settings that enable us to have these deeper markets that we require. We need a much deeper market. Today, we sit at about 50%. Our market depth is about 50% of that to the US. So the policy and regulatory settings are going to be important. Secondly, our institutions are going to need to have the products and the platforms that enable those investments to be made and for the capital to be deployed. But then it's also going to require our consumers to shift their mindset as well. And as we're seeing in Japan today, we're going to need to see a shift from being more savings-based and the policy settings that are there today in which government is really encouraging the consumer to think about how they invest alongside their savings.
Stuart, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity, Simon.
Once again, that was Stuart Johnston, Financial Services Leader for Asia Pacific at Deloitte. For more news, please visit asianbankingandfinance.net.